Hey guys, before we tune into this episode, I just want to let you know that there's a trigger warning, and that is on loss and the last moments that I had with my fiance. So be mindful of this topic. I would maybe skip it if you're currently grieving, and if you feel strong enough, please tune into my story. Thank you. Hello, and welcome back to the Mindful Dose podcast. You're listening to Adriana, and today's episode is a bit more personal. So, this episode is about breathing, obviously, grounding, and what it means to find your center when the world kind of feels like it's destabilizing. And that will look different at many different points in your life. I do want to preface that I never thought I would make this episode, but recently I've had a very spiritual connection with my fiance. So for those of you who don't know, my fiance passed away at this point 2.5 years ago. I had a very spiritual moment with him. Also, if you don't know, I'm a medium, so all of this spiritual stuff, that's my jam outside of meditation. So I had a moment where I felt like this story needed to be shared at this point in my journey with being a meditation teacher in the world. So turbulence is something that we experience in our life. Sometimes things aren't going well in this area, and it'll take some time before that kind of smooths out, but then something over here will come up. So turbulence is normal for us. It sucks. Depending on what it is, it's just an unpleasant feeling. As we call it in yoga, there's pleasant experiences and unpleasant experiences. I want to focus this episode on some of that turbulence, whether it's anxiety, grief, uncertainty, or fear. When I go into teaching people how to meditate or what meditation is, I always have to talk about the part that's happening to our brain where we either feel fear, we feel threatened, or we feel stuck. This is a stress response. We know this is the fight or flight response. There's a third one that's freeze, but this is a stress response. And typically that happens before our mind can process what's happening. So our body is going through this surge of reaction to something that we see as a threat, and we respond to save our life, or to save our life in the moment. And what it looks like in modern day, it's a little different than it did way back when we lived outside, and had to flee from animals. So I kind of want to preface all of this to say that our body reacts before our mind does. And my fiance passed away June 27th, 2023. He was sick for a couple of weeks, and by sick, he had asthma, and he was going through a really rough patch with his asthma, which was normal at this time of the year. We didn't think much of it, but he was sick for several weeks. And it was just awful. At this point, I had witnessed him go through like sick episodes a couple times. So I always knew that this was always to happen every year. And it always sucked to just watch him kind of like struggle with his breath. As a meditation teacher, I just want to be like, try this, try that. But like, I really don't know what it's like to have asthma, which, it's something in your lungs. It's so physical within you that limits you from taking a full breath. So I can't just say, take a full breath, because physically he cannot, unless he's treating it, right? So he was treating it, of course. He was handling it. By this point, he had asthma all his life. So every year, this was the thing. He just knew how to take care of himself. But as a bystander to like watch, it just was awful, especially this year. There was a point where his breath just sounded like it would make my skin crawl. Like I just wanted to like help him, and I couldn't. At the very end of that night, the 26th, he was struggling, and he told me, like, I know it sounds bad, but I am feeling better. And I was like, all right, cool. And then moments later, I had to call 911 because he couldn't breathe. And when you can't breathe, you can't talk. So with as much that he had available to him, which was none, told me to call 911. And that's when my body just reacted. My body went into that mode of reacting and getting him the help and just being with him until help got there. So I, as his fiance, as someone that he loves, as someone who used breath work during labor, like everything that I have ever learned and experienced just came into that moment while we were waiting for help. And I knew, I was smart enough to know better than to say just breathe. So instead, the only cue, right, like as a teacher, we use cues to guide someone, whether it's through asana, like physical practice, or meditation. We use these cues. So the only cue that I could muster and make sense of in the moment, my body was able to push this word out, and it was steady. Steady. And those were my last words to him, was steady. So the last experience I had with him, and I'm realizing this now, was me guiding him through breathing, whatever it was to him at that moment, because he was struggling to breathe. So I just feel I was a meditation teacher before this happened. So I'm not saying that this inspired me to teach the breath or anything like that. And I wouldn't say that I feel like a failure, but there is something to it, and knowing the relationship that we had and still have, because life continues on, and that's a topic for another day. But the relationship that we have established and continue to work with is that we supported each other in that moment, and he has supported me through the experience afterwards. When I teach people how to meditate, or when I guide people through a sitting, at the very end, as in a formal setting, I will always thank them for allowing me to guide them through the practice. And I think I know it comes from a very, very deep part of my heart when I say that, because I think of that moment that I had with my fiance, and I'm so grateful that I was there for him in whatever way I could, which was to remind him to be steady, and, for whatever it's worth, in your last moments, to hear those words. Breathing is our life force. Breathing the air that we breathe, it gives us the energy to be alive within this body. And I feel like I'm kind of like going like side to side, ping-ponging my thoughts here, but like talking about my fiance, and it's still trippy to talk about him in the past sense like that. But I'm trying to make a point that I'm so grateful to be a meditation teacher before that experience, in that experience, and most certainly after that experience, because I have seen just how delicate the breath is. And if I can guide you through the turbulence, it is an honor for you to trust me with that turbulence and to help you get through it. So That is, well, God, that's the point that I was trying to make. Wow, that feels like I just need a minute. Gosh, trying to make 2 points like that in that genre is a lot. So the reason why I kind of struggle to talk about it is not only just because it's my fiance and, whatever, the events of it were just pretty traumatic, but he was also like only the second person in my whole 29 years of life at that point that I knew who passed. And I was still fairly new to grief. So it was such a sucker punch from life. So thank you for just kind of listening and getting through that point with me, because I'm trying to grow up here with my grief. Okay, so now as a teacher, I teach, here on the podcast when I can, but I have students that I teach every week, and I have seen their progress. I love to hear back from them on how it has helped them and how it works for them in the way that it works. And I've done all kinds of things, from like traditional breath work, like pranayama, to like more modern styles, to now sound baths, just casting a wide net, because meditation is accessible to everyone. And I want to let people know that you can find your avenue and just go on that path and see where it takes you. But I want to help you. If I can't guide you through a specific type, I'll point you to somewhere where I feel like you'll thrive in. So, all right. So going back to the body, reacting to stress before your mind can process it. Once you get through the threat, once the threat is gone, your body is pumping adrenaline. So you're still it's kind of like residual, it's a residual response that you're kind of experiencing. I don't have the technical terms. I'm not as sciencey as some of my peers out there, but I know what I'm talking about. There's still some residual energy there that has to you have to close the stress response. You have to circle back, tell your nervous system, I'm safe. I'm no longer in a threat. I'm not being threatened. I'm not in a challenging situation that is going to either kill me or harm me. So you have to find that way to tell your nervous system to chill out. We don't really get that time to ourselves here. With the modern day habits that we have, scrolling, escaping through on our screens, or escaping through music, or just something that's a little mindless, mindless isn't harmful, but it's important to be mindful about that stress response, that stress experience. So my stressful experience, that's a really big, heavy thing that had to be closed through multiple tools, therapy, community, and all these other types of assistance was needed for me to close that stress response. But let's say like you're having a work day that is rough, that really piques your stress, and you clock out, but you're still carrying work energy with you. You have to find a way to close that stress response. Some people will go to the gym and work out, but and that will help kind of like that residual feeling in the body, where your body reacts first and your mind reacts later. So that helps that physical part, but the mental part needs some addressing as well. So meditation is one way to do it, and like I said, there's different avenues of meditation that you can explore to tap into that mental processing, that mental experience. So I just want to kind of loop this all in that most of us have that physical outlet, like the gym is pretty popular, or just, like doing something for your body to signal, hey, we're okay. But then like your mind needs some assistance too. So the breath, like I mentioned in the episode before this, is the most accessible tool. And the way you can do that is by taking a deep breath in through your nose holding the breath for a moment, and then exhaling completely to just reset. So now what we're going to do is just inhale to a count of 4, and we'll exhale to a count of 6. And by exhaling longer than our inhales, we will begin to signal to our nervous system that we're safe, we're good, it's all good. Where you are, you're okay. So let's breathe in to a count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One more time. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And just notice 3 breaths ago what you were like versus how you're feeling now. You probably feel like more at ease. Your shoulders might feel a little softer. So your breath can help you stabilize, find the ground beneath your feet again. Find your consciousness again. And it can help you just feel relaxed again. I know I dropped that big bomb about my fiance earlier. After that, like I said, I had different tools to help me close that stress response, and it took a lot of time. So community was a big thing, leaning into help. Therapy was also a big thing, just talking about it, because like I said, it was very new to me, so I needed to just talk about it. And funny enough, I actually had a therapy appointment already scheduled the following day, so it was just weird how it just aligned that way. I will never forget that experience with my fiance, not just because of the obvious trauma, but more so like, I know he couldn't tell me, because when you can't breathe, you can't talk. But I can feel it in his body. We were holding hands. I could feel softness in his hands. And I will carry that with me as a teacher for till it's my time. So as your teacher, I don't mean to get so deep, but it's just really hard to avoid it in my own personal life. I have, for any of you who are into astrology, I have a North Node in Scorpio with Jupiter right next to it, and it's all in my 8th house. So like, there's no avoiding deep topics like this. So I'm just going to lean into it. If you don't like it, I'm sorry. If it's too much, sorry. But it's really hard to avoid it. When I'm guiding you guys, I'm really, really, like, my intention, my truest intention, my main intention is to help you find peace. Because the more that you're familiar with that feeling, the more that, like, you'll experience it within turbulence. Like, there's no changing the world around you, as much as there is the ability to change the world within you. So that is my thing. I hope I can help you in that way. That's my intention. It's only ever my intention with these guided meditations that I bring to you in this podcast, or, in a workshop setting. But that is the truest experience that I have had all through my practicing years, but most especially in that moment that I had with my fiance, Jason. So I really think that's it for this episode. Sorry for the flip-flopping, but we'll get better at this as time goes on. Thank you so much for listening to our story. Drop a little love in the comments for Jason, because this was honestly, by his blessing, something that we have felt like needed to be shared at this point in the podcast journey. So thank you again. I'll see you guys next time.